Go to this video now. All right, this letter with William Penn from 1685. You got to understand, there's a lot. 1685, 1683, 1682, 1681. I'm going to play this video, but you have to understand, there, 1681, the so-called white man actually started calling himself white at that time. There was no such thing, no group of humanity referred to as white before that. All right, in documentation and paper. They actually put it to paper and made it law. In 1682, they combined the so-called African slaves and the copper native, the brown people, which you're going to get a description of them. They classified them as Negro, all right, as one people, as the same people. Okay. Then in 1683, they made miscegenation laws, all right. And I'm gonna break that down, what that means. Well, basically, it made it to where it was illegal for Edomite women, pale women, to marry these new said Negroes, being Latinos, Native Americans, and here in America, or any other man, Arab or Chinese, whoever happened to be in the colonies at that time. They could only marry white men, because, and the thing is that, and the reason they made the laws because white women weren't choosing white men. Okay, that's historical fact. They weren't choosing them. So we're right back there now. So you're looking at a second Bacon's Rebellion, and then you're looking at an uprising of white Christian extremism, right? You know, extreme white Christianism, ready to attack and be violent again. All right, especially against Jay. All right, and force their women to marry them and have their children, because the truth of the matter is that you can't deny it. You can go all over the internet. That curse has fell upon Esau Edom. His women, for the most part, are very much against him, and you can see that on almost every social media platform that there is. All right. They're not hiding the fact that they don't like their man and calling them out for the wickedness that they do. But without any further ado, all right, we're gonna play this letter, and then this video, and the guy's gonna break down this letter written by William Penn, which rounds out the things that happened in 1600s. And so we have 1681, 1682, 1683, and then 1685, which is when this letter was written. So get your cameras ready, screenshot, take notes, because this is some heavy evidence.
Greeks we read about in textbooks were actually the Minoans, Etruscans, and Macedonians, groups that were ethnically indistinguishable from the Moors of America, so-called.
Now, just for the record, you know, I've probably done 50 or 60 videos on this very topic subject, providing the receipts and the imagery to prove it, all right? The ancient Greeks they didn't start off white. Edomites took that over. All right. Well, upon the when Alexander of Macedon came into power, when Alexander and the Macedonians, old Edomites, came into power, that's when Greece became white. It wasn't white before then. So all that mythology and all those, Troy and all this, those weren't white people. All right. They lie about that. A great whitewashing of history. All right, and all that happened during the Renaissance when they came into power the second time, the Edomites.
Black Americans built Greece and Rome before being bleached out.
The original Greeks were melanated Peloponnesians and Macedonians, vassals of the Moorish Carthaginian Empire.
Systematic Renaissance iconoclasm whitewashed this Asiatic antiquity, burying the true masters in Vatican.
See, proving you that Europe is in Asia. All right, said Asiatic because Eurasia is Asia, all right. And so Europe is and what I'm sharing with you right there. There's not 7 continents, which they teach in the schools fraudulently. There's only 6, all right. The Middle East and a part of Asia that they call Europe are what is Western Asia. As simple as that. And Asia was full of dark people, okay, different tribes, but they all were dark.
100 years, the story of ancient Greece was, in truth, a story of Africa. These mosaics carved in stone and glass.
And she's incorrect on that. See, that's what they do. Because once they get caught, and they, you know, when it's found out that so-called black people, or you know, a darker melanated people were in a certain part of the world, they automatically try to refer them to being Africans. No, those people, those are the sons of Japhet. Japhet was not a so-called white man, as it has been proclaimed. Okay, those Japhites, those Greeks and Minoans, they had nothing to do with the Hamitic sons of from Africa. All right, with Ham's sons. Nothing at all. Different set of dark people. Same as the Israelites, a different race of dark people. The world was the only people that were pale, that were red, all right, was the Edomites. Everyone else was melanated, swarthy and tawny.
So statesmen and soldiers with distinctly African features. Full lips, broad.
Preserved in glass and marble, the faces of a forgotten Hellenic world gaze back at us. Warriors, scholars, athletes, and royals.
And this is also how this time is when the Israelites were in captivity in Greece, in this 400-year period of Hellenization, which is why you get to Rome, you get to the New Testament, and there's certain scriptures that say there's no difference between the Greek nor Jew. What that's talking about are the Hellenized Israelites that became completely Hellenized in their captivity under the Edomites, under Alexander's generals. Alexander's 4 generals that took over Eurasia and North Africa. Okay? So that's how that happened. Scriptures such as, I'll just mention them, write it down, Acts 6:1 and Acts 9:29. And matter of fact, let me just read one of them because they read very similar. But the word there is the same for both of them. 6:1 first. And it says in Acts 6:1, and in those days when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring between the Grecians against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. So why would the Hebrews didn't deal with other nations? So why would the Greek wives, widows, and the Hebrew wives all be in the same line, you know, to get any kind of alms from the Israelites, from the Hebrews? Because those Greek women, those were the ones who had lived in the Greekish fashion for 400 years and were coming back to their nationality back, and white racist Christianism purposely left it out. They could have easily put the word Hellenist in the scripture too, but they printed Grecian purposely. Okay? Just like they print Jesus where it's supposed to say Yahushua. You see? So Esau Edom is just a liar. In Tawada, I actually have a Bible here where all that's returned to its proper. Can't wait to start using this Bible. Okay? And Esau Edom, being the liar that he is, you know, he added all those abominable vowel points and even used a different script. That you know, I look at it, it just is what it is. Because the scriptures are clear. You can't change anything. All right? There's laws on that. So you can't take the Lord's language and apply a different script to it, and then apply it to different languages and give it different sounds and meanings. That's exactly what they did. They took what was holy and made it an abomination. All right? Now, there's going to be a payment for that, because ain't going to be none of that Assyrian stuff upon the return of the Lord. You best believe that.
People of deep bronze and onyx skin, etched in stone and gold.
I wanted to read to you a letter that's from one of our forefathers. This is from William Penn.
Pay close attention.
This letter was written in 1685. He wrote it to the traders of London. This letter, if you'd like to read it, the book I'm reading it from, you can find it in more than one way. But this book is The History of Dauphin County, Dauphin, Dauphin County, Pennsylvania. So please listen up. This is William Penn telling you. I found one of the lost tribes of Israel, of the stock of the 10 tribes. And I want to read you to his words. They're an offering. Again, you're seeing his words written in a book. These are not my words, and I'm reading them to you. The natives I shall consider in their persons, language, manners, religion, and government, with my sense of their original. For their persons they are generally tall, straight, well-built, and of singular proportion. They tread strong and clever, and mostly walk with a lofty chin. Of complexion, black, but by design. as the gypsies in England. They grease themselves with bear's fat clarified, and using no defense against the sun or weather, their skin needs must be swarthy. Their eye is little and black, not unlike a straight-looking Jew. The thick lip and flat nose, so frequent with the East Indians and blacks, are not common to them. For I have seen as comely European-like faces among them, of both as on your side of the sea, and truly an Italian complexion hath not much more of the white, and the noses of several of them have as much of the Roman. Their language is lofty yet narrow, but like the Hebrew in signification full, and you can read further. What I want to do now is scroll down and get down to the end of what he has to say. And then now you see I'm scrolling right through. I want you to bear, this is a history book that you can look up yourself today. This is History of Dauphin County. You can see that at the top there. I'll give you a minute so that way you can actually screenshot that and use this. I'd definitely love to have you. These are free. They're on Google Books now, so you can go in there and get all these things for free. This teaches you about their government is by kings.
They're going to remove
right
those.
There, not by
get
chiefs.
them now.
Okay? And more to read there about what Shema are and things like that, words that we still use today. And here we go. As we get down here, for their original, I am ready to believe them of the Jewish race. I mean of the stock of the 10 tribes. And that, for the following reasons. First, they were to go to a land not planted nor known, which to be sure, Asia and Africa were, if not Europe. And he that intended that extraordinary judgment upon them might make the passage not uneasy to them.
And see what that's telling you is, look, he said because Asia, Africa were well known. Eurasia, people lived in those part of the world. What mankind had never dwelt before was in the Western Hemisphere. This is where the 10 tribes came to. And the Apocrypha gives you testimony of that. But what did Esau do? He went and removed the Apocrypha from the Bible Destruction Group. Removed the Apocrypha and have convinced many people that it's not a part of the Bible when in fact it is. 100%. There are precepts in the Bible that send you to the Apocrypha and vice versa. Okay? Even in the Jewish encyclopedias, they refer to America as Asareth, which is spoken of in 2nd Ezra 13th chapter, the place where the 10 tribes came to. All right? We got this. Matter of fact, I got a video that I'd like to share real quick. And basically, more relics were found in Puerto Rico. So this is the third time the ancient Paleo prototype Hebrew, the Phoenician form of Hebrew, all right, has been found in Puerto Rico. Because they found some gold a couple different times. I think about maybe 6 years ago, they found a whole bunch of gold, and there was Hebrew inscriptions on it. And now they just found a cave. All right, these group of caves, and in these caves near the water, all around those caves, you saw the carving of the ancient Paleo Hebrew. There's no getting around this, man. Why is it not playing? What the hell?
The Puerto Rican Hebraic writing. Somebody told me this was a real thing. I thought they were crazy. Loco. Then when I went down to the caves to actually check it out here in Puerto Rico, what we found was rather astonishing. Because upon closer look and examination, start to see that each continent is connected through a common language or through common characters or paleo writings or groups of writings that we find on each island. When you go down this cave, is connected to the ocean basically, you're going to find a lot of these writings. They're going to match up with the paleo. It's absolutely wild. When I started to compare a lot of these writings, they were absolutely like identical to the paleo. Not the modern day Hebrew, but the original Hebrew. A whole bunch of crosses, tovs, a whole bunch of shins. Even see the character hey, where a man is holding his hands up. It's a character of a man. I could see why they don't want people to actually know their own history, why they wouldn't want Puerto Ricans to know that they are Hebrews. Now remember, can a nation be built in a day, my friends? No, it cannot. Neither were you guys. Information, your history didn't start in 1492. Information has been around since basically almost the beginning of time. This place is so historic. That's the letter hey that I was talking about earlier. But there's so much here in the island or on the island of Puerto Rico. Studying the history of the islands worldwide helps to connect every continent, every tribe, the Puerto Rican Hebraic writing.
So you can't get around this, man. And, you know, that would be, you know, and why Esau chose the J-ish imposters chose to use the Assyrian script because it was too many books and too much evidence, like I just shared with you, amongst the native tribes here in America. All right, and you know, different writings and relics and things of that nature. So they chose to use the Assyrian script and not the actual proper Hebrew because they could, you know, and then they just discarded the actual real Hebrew, stuck it away in museums, all those relics and things of that nature, turned them upside down and called it native, you know, languages and that whole sort of thing. But when in fact that they committed the abomination of lying and changing the holy word, okay, because Hebrew never had a vowel system, okay, for representing inscribed works. It never had a vowel system, man. Okay, so this is an abomination of the integration of the vowel system introduced into Phoenician or, you know, Paleo Phoenician or prototype Hebrew. These people are liars and deceivers, man. That's what they are. And they're cold busted and exposed. All right, and we'll finish with this. Actually, miscegenation laws. I put it up on the screen. These were the laws that they enacted. After they created this new concept of whiteness. Okay, 1683. There were no new major colonial then, which is a lie. They're saying that there were no, but the era committed the legal foundation of racial control. They're saying there was no new ones. Okay, but anyway, the prior decades established the first anti-miscegenation statutes, which dictate severe punishments for interracial relationships and forced children of these unions into slavery. And that's what they did. So to prevent Edomite women from marrying Negroes, they passed these laws, and then they made the white women inherit the same slave status, or they took their children and sold their children into slavery. So white women, out of for survival, they started finally marrying white males. And this is actual history, man. In 1664, Maryland law was the first anti-miscegenation law passed in the American colonies, aimed to deter marriages between freeborn white women and enslaved black. These women were choosing to marry enslaved black men rather than to be with a white guy. Really let that sink in. Penalizing these women with the indentured servitude and declare their children enslaved. 1681, Maryland revision. The Maryland Temporary revised the laws to only penalize forced marriages by masters and allow mixed race children to be born free. But later in the 17th century, the colonies continued to tighten restrictions. Okay, so the fact that they created these laws is evidence of the lack of superiority for a pale male. It's the complete opposite of what they teach and what they push. All right, so it just proves that when you have fair ground, Jacob versus Esau, whether it be on a battlefield, in a sports arena, in the classroom, if Jake is given the same opportunity You know, a fair, level playing field, they far surpass Esau, Edom, especially in the bedroom. All right? Okay? It's like I heard one of the elders say many years ago. He said, you know, Esau, you know, Jake will, on average, will outrun, outfight, outfuck Esau any day of the week. And that's just what it is. So with that, you know, I hope this was enlightening, that it was edifying, that you learned something. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Awashai Ba'Shem Rukahak Badas Kwam Yasharala Abba Babal.